everybody, to the Brian and Jessi Show. We are here with you today to talk about some good, juicy stuff.
Juicy stuff.
Juicy. That's my new word.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm a little embarrassed about that already.
No, it's good. I think that we're going to talk about something today that nobody wants to talk about. I have a question for you because I think that it's a question for people. So obviously, New Testament, God sends letters to a church in a city.
Sure.
And gives instruction to a pastor, a congregation, right? And that was like the one. That was the Jesus following congregation.
Yeah, to the Church of God in Ephesus, to the Church of God in Corinth.
So there was one.
Yeah, there was a church in the city.
Yeah, but now there's like 77,000.
Yeah, it's like Baskin Robbins now, right? Everybody thinks there's a million flavors and just choose your own adventure.
You could just like have specialty churches for just specific people, even though Jesus died for everyone. But
Cowboy, biker, right? Whatever kind of church. Fisher Church.
Listen, I love everyone who preaches the gospel. I'm not down on anybody. I love it, but it's a little weird.
I want to run a little church for PGA guys because I like watching golf. Or how about a little church for billionaires? Ooh. It'd be well funded.
There you go. It would.
That's funny.
So anyway, I think the church is supposed to be like, a group of people that look like the city.
Yeah, sure.
And our New Testament believers that follow the gospel, right? But what nobody wants to talk about is that doesn't always just work out perfectly because there's a bunch of churches,
Sure.
And then you've got people that don't understand like that there are ethics to be followed in churches. And so you've got people that give and serve and love and whatever. And then people that hop and go from here to there. But then you've also got those people that like, they have one move in their life that they need to make. They lived in the same city. They need to make a move, whatever. So as a pastor, I want to ask you this question. What is because listen, when people leave churches, it's personal. Because it's personal, right? And people want it not to be personal. They want a pastor to love them enough to want them there, but not love them enough to be sad when they leave, So,
sure.
And that's a hard line to walk. And we've pastored for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So, as a pastor, what is the right way for a person to leave a church?
That's such a tough question and such a hard question to answer. Because when you leave the church I pastor, I'm always mad about it, right? I'm always because it's personal, right? It's like I could act like I'm all holy and I'm above this, but I'm not.
You're never happy.
I'm never happy when
I've
you
been
leave.
happy before.
No, I've been happy when some people leave that are really problems, right? And it's like because some people are just problems wherever you go. I mean, we've all got that family member. Your whatever, your holiday meal is great, and then they show up and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, there are church members like that, and I like to send them to the Baptist or the Methodist. Or I love to send them somewhere like that and just bless those churches with us. So I'm happy when some of them leave. But when good folk leave, it's always painful. It always hurts because it's kind of like, the church it's his church, but it's my life's work. So it is also my baby. And it's like, you don't like my baby? Well, I don't like your baby. Your baby's ugly, Is what my flesh wants to do.
This is not what you want to say to someone.
No. You don't say that, but so you got to rise above that and operate out of your spirit, not your flesh. So what is the right way to leave the church? I think you don't go out. A lot of people go out of a church throwing hand grenades back in it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like and when they're tired of the church or they're offended, because people get offended.
Sure.
I promise you, if you stay in a church, you will be offended.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to offend you.
I've been offended.
I've been offended at church.
And stayed in church.
And I'm the pastor, and I stay in, and people say all kinds of stuff about you as a leader, and that goes with leadership, and you just know that's part of the deal. But you're going to be offended, and people also have unreal expectations of people in church.
I think that's true.
They think that, we come to church, these people should act like Christians. No. They should, and so should you. But this is a hospital for broken people. And if you got a real high expectation how everybody's going to treat you and receive you and always be perfect, we're just a lot of people trying to go after God and get better.
Yeah.
And if you think they're going to be perfect, you're going to be let down, you're going to get hurt, and you're not going to make it in church. So I think we should have a high expectation for ourselves.
That's good.
And a grace-filled expectation for others. right? Because the only perfect person is Jesus. That's why we're here to worship him and lift him up. So I think people get in those positions. Sometimes there's theological differences.
Yes.
Right? And used to, when there was one church, Paul, you didn't believe something they believed, you just had to deal with it, or you didn't have another church to go to. Now there's churches that believe everything.
Yeah.
So you
like
can
a
just
huge variety of like very minute theological differences.
Yeah, which hindsight's 20/20, but it's terrible to split over nothing. Right?
I just think
We've
about
made
all
some
the
mistakes. They split over nothing.
all of the churches that could have stayed together and impacted the world in a bigger way because they stayed together and like grouped up, and like you can do more as a team, right, than just as an individual.
100%. There's corporate power when you get together.
Absolutely.
Look at what the big corporations are doing right now in America. The insanity that's ensuing over the agendas they're pushing, and why can they do such a thing? They can do such a thing because they are corporate.
Yeah.
And there's power, and there's a lot of them, and we keep dividing ourselves. So how do you leave a church? All right, to the best of my ability, you don't go out throwing grenades in. You pray for the people. You ought to think about it a long time and pray about it a long time. Not a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
You ought to communicate however that church does it through the appropriate leadership. Right? It doesn't all have to go through the senior pastor. Some churches operate like that. If it's a smaller church, some churches you got leaders in your department.
But you should definitely not tell 10 of your very favorite people that you are leaving because something secretive is wrong and you just
That's
can't
right.
tell
I
them
just
the answer.
can't talk about
Yeah,
that. Right.
shouldn't
And a
be
lot of
happening.
times it's something that doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
people like to put question marks when they go because they want to feel good about the decision they've made.
Yeah.
Right? So they want to they want to throw shade. I think that's how the whippersnappers would say it. They want to throw shade or cast shade.
I don't think they're going to say whippersnapper, but that's good.
I like that though. That's funny for me. So
They wear breeches.
they wear
Whippersnappers
breeches.
wear
Those
breeches.
whippersnappers and those breeches with those boom boxes, taking that marijuana. All right, the whippersnappers.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So people will be like, it just, some things just weren't right. Well, what were the things? Well, they didn't let you sing the special. Some things that just weren't right.
Yeah.
So you got into it with one of the other ladies back in the kids ministry. They want to make it like it's a big, deep, dark
Do you
secret.
remember that guy
so
that
they
told,
can feel good.
Remember that guy that told everybody that we were misappropriating funds?
Oh, when we started back in the day.
So we didn't have any funds. I don't know
There
how you
were no
misappropriate
funds.
funds
We're in a
that you don't
broken down
have.
building.
But he made that accusation and he made it to a bunch of people, and then it got back to you and you were like, hey, I heard that you said that I misappropriated funds. Is there anything that you'd like to tell me? Like, I am not aware of any funds being misappropriated. And he was like, absolutely.
Well, at first he said, no, I don't want to talk about it. I said, no. You can't make an accusation.
That's a big accusation.
That's a big accusation. You said it like somebody stealing money. So what is the misappropriation of funds?
Yes. And he said, we had a barbecue and you guys made, I don't know, hot dogs and hamburgers or something. And then they weren't all eaten and you put them in the refrigerator and no one got them out and took them to the homeless.
Yeah, so that was the gross misappropriation.
And yet he saw them there and he did not take them.
Yeah, he didn't take
He
them.
misappropriated funds. I didn't even know they were
Back then, the church was a couple hundred people or something like that. It's like, man.
So funny, though. But
what am I,
people,
minister of hot dogs in the back room? How am I supposed to know that?
But people want to put question marks where God has put an exclamation point, put favor, put a good church, good people, and because they want to feel good on their way out about their choice, they'll throw a question mark up. So it's really important that you honor the place that you go.
You want to leave blessing it. You want to
Yeah.
have been a blessing and being blessed by them.
Even if you disagree.
Right, and there's a way to do that, and I have seen people do it the right way in the past.
Yeah.
I can think of some.
They're very special people.
Sweet ladies that have come to us and be like, "Hey, even I don't necessarily disagree with a certain doctrine you have, but my husband does."
Yes.
And, the guy, from my perspective, was an instant theologian, just had water. He really didn't know anything, but he thought he did.
Sure, but as a wife,
And
she's
the
following
wife
the leadership.
Went with the husband and came and said, hey, Pastor, thanks so much for loving us, blessing us. You've been good to us. You helped us so many different ways, but here's what his conviction is. I'm going with him. I get that. It's like, bless you. I hope you do well.
Yeah.
And last time I saw, they were in a good church doing well, which blesses my heart as a pastor. Now, I'll say this.
That was the one thing I was going to say is if you're going to leave a church, make sure you're going to another.
Going to another church.
Yeah, don't let the devil take you out.
Yeah, a lot of people will leave and never go anywhere, and then it messes up the kids. It messes up everything. And typically that's just the trap of offense move, right? That they become offended and they get trapped in something. And I've watched it mess up not just a family, but generations.
Yeah, it's
them, their kids, and now it's working on the grandkids right now, because people just, they don't play well with others. So to do good in church, you're going to have to learn to do well with people, because the church isn't a building. Church is the people.
That's right.
So you got to learn conflict resolution, conflict management, right? You got to learn how to look past things that don't matter. We're not talking about not leaving somewhere where there's something seriously sinister happening.
Sure.
It's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about normal life, people coming and going. And when you leave, you want to leave well. And I really don't think God's just calling people. He doesn't put you in a church to call you somewhere else every 6 months. Some people, they move all the time. And I think
church bunnies.
They're church bunnies, church hoppers. I think that nature, with our age group, it came into the employment scene, right?
Yeah.
I think now, like you look at the millennials and younger, a lot of them are having a hard time holding down employment, staying in places.
Sure.
That also, you see it in the church world and those kind of things. And here's the message I would give.
Most older people had 5 jobs before they were 40 or 50 or something, like maybe totally 5, and now they have 27 or something.
No, I mean the
stats are very clear.
It's insane that people don't stay anywhere as long. So I think about this, the old analogy, it just fits and it works. If you plant a plant and you dig it up every month, it's never going to produce fruit.
No.
To make anything work, you got to stick to it. You got to water it. You got to feed it. You've already, there's been seed put in the ground. You got to stay with it. And the gym doesn't work if you stop all the time. Church doesn't work if you stop all the time. Business doesn't work if you stop all the time. Marriage doesn't work if you stop. Parenting, there's nothing I can think of that produces in life that if you don't hold on and keep fighting, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Stay planted would be my first thing. I would say stay planted, and if you believe absolutely, you got to go. Do it right.
Absolutely. And I think social media has given such a platform to people. Was that a O about the social media, or O because you're getting older?
That was an O because I'm moving this right hip right now, and an O because of social media.
Yeah. So social media has given everyone a platform to say whatever they want to say. And I think a good tip is refuse the temptation to post everything that you think on social media about a place, because, and this is what I'll say, I've known about specific places that people were planted in, that there was sin and there were things that were bad.
Well, there were people there.
There were people there. And even in leadership, maybe there was a sinful thing going on. And I 100% did not want to speak evil of that place or those people, because at some point that leader has planted seeds of goodness in those people's hearts. And when we speak evil of it, even if it's legitimate and you're proving your point and you're right and they did it and all the things, I think it can be really self-serving and very short-sighted to take seeds of faith that have been planted in others' hearts so that you can be heard, so that your voice can be known, so that you can look like you're the wisdom queen or king of the century, and disparage, is that the word? Disparage that,
I like it. I don't know
that
if it is,
person
but I
in
like
that place. And so I just think it's really important that we remember that people are always it's the church, not a church. Well, you got to be a part of a local church to be a part of the church. First of all, it's kind of like, a fraternity. You got to have a local chapter. Second of all, yes, we should be a part of the church, but we can't even get along in a church. So I think we should focus on a church until we learn to get along in that church, and not everybody that wants to talk about the church is somebody that doesn't want to buckle down in a church,
Well, they don't want to serve. They don't want to give. They don't want to show up. They don't want to
easier to be a part of a mystic thing.
And now it's easy just to watch online.
Yeah.
So like this is a blessing right now. We can communicate right online.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great medium for that. But it's not the church.
Not even close.
You can't just do church digitally.
No.
And we've made some real theological mistakes as these technologies have come up. And there have been churches that have spearheaded that. And it may even say online campus on one of our websites, which I should take that down and just say watch live if it's on there, because I don't believe that. I don't believe you can just be a part. I think this could be a front door for you coming, but for you to really...
It can also be a back door.
A back door, yes. But for you to really thrive, you're going to have to be a part of a church.
Yeah.
And that's the will of God for your life. There's a corporate anointing. It means the power of God's there when we come together, especially. And you need to be a part of that. And you need to watch and not easily be moved.
Yeah.
So I think of the churches I've been a part of since I've been born again. I've been a part of one church in every city I've lived in.
Yeah.
And I just stayed there. And till I left the city, or I went and planted churches.
So basically, you go quick, you go quiet, you go loving.
I think that's the best you can do. And
how you leave one season is how you're entering the next one.
How you go into the next. That's right.
Yeah.
So now we got ministers that don't even follow any of the ethics.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're creating a bad model for the people.
Not really teaching well.
Like I think of guys that have been a part in church, been teaching team, been on stage, been given opportunity, and then all of a sudden the Lord leads them 2 miles down the road to start another church. Well, they don't start. They take half of this church with them.
Yeah.
Right? And it happens again and again and again.
That's not healthy.
It's not healthy.
That doesn't help anyone.
A real shepherd doesn't scatter the sheep he gathers.
Yeah.
And if the guy's got an anointing and some guts and an ability, he would go to a city where he doesn't know anybody. And he wouldn't start with a pre-stocked pond that another church has given to him, all the fish, right?
True.
He would go to a place that he's never been before if he believes the gospel works.
Yeah.
So I've watched guys do it. The gospel
we
works.
planted churches.
I've done it. I've walked into a city
works.
where I didn't know anybody and used the gospel, prayed for people, and planted churches that have thrived and done well. And
I do know some people that have gone 2 miles down the road under the blessing of their home church.
But they were sent.
And they were sent. That's a totally different
They were
deal.
sent. That's a totally different deal, being sent than taking.
Yeah.
One, you're a shepherd that's been sent. The other one, from my perspective, you're a thief. And I have no respect for that. God's got grace for him, but I'm old school like that. So I think they've set up a bad model, and the churches see it, and a lot of guys don't understand. They don't know the ethics. So they're like, what's the big deal? They're all still going to church. I'm like, yeah, well, the big deal is, did you ever think maybe 1,000 of those people over here committed to build that building and to fund that thing and to take care of it together and to put on those kids programs and youth programs? And you got it all started, and they paid that minister to connect with all these people as an associate. And so this body paid them to connect with their people. And now he utilized and used that to create a schism. The Bible says, let there be no schism among you, and to take them.
It actually says it's one of the things that God hates.
Yes.
Is whenever someone comes in and divides the brethren.
Divides the brethren.
Yikes.
So a lot of times they do it to get over here because they want to be in charge. A lot of times they want a salary out of those people. Right? There's some, I'm not saying it's always like that, but a lot of times it's like that. And so I think we've set up a bad culture where people don't know how to do things
well,
grace-filled and with the blessing of God. So
I'm saying bring class back to the church.
Yeah, let's make the church classy again.
Make the church classy again. That's my new motto. I love it. Because there are so many people, and people don't know how to, it's like, well, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to serve this vision and this thing, and I'm going to give my life. The way we do church is like, it's our life, So when you're a lifer like this, then you have friends and they go over and you're not doing life with them. And then they're like, well, we're going to have the exact same relationship. And they don't understand why people can't have the exact same relationship. But it's like they're doing life right here and they didn't go anywhere. You bunny hopped over here.
Yeah, people will say, why aren't you still my best friend? It's like, well,
and I've seen
you
that
left.
amongst like members, and it really makes the member's heart sad. That's like a faithful person, because they're like, well, I do still love them. Why is it not the same? And it's like, well, it's not the same because you've been doing life together in this place. You've created a community, and there's nothing wrong with creating community. It's actually a sign of healthy church, and God has called us, appointed us, assigned us. We serve, we work, we give, and our children serve, work, and give to build that place. And I think that's the will of God, for our lives and our families. And it doesn't mean that, I see people post this all the time. It's like, we're not in a gang. You can still be friends with people that don't go to your church. Well, of course you can be friends, but like, we're doing life together.
The relationship
changes
because you had a similar goal,
a
similar purpose. You went to the same place.
You had
on
all
Sundays
the same
and
things
Wednesdays,
to talk about,
right? You had the same community, and then when you go different places, things change. Relationships change when you move cities.
Yeah.
Right? You got some friends you used to go out with every Friday night, and now you live in a different city. Well, it's going to be hard to do that now. So it's not that you're not still friends, but it does change the dynamic of relationships. And a lot of times people have hard feelings about that, but that's just reality.
That's just life.
It's not being gangs, it's just reality.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people may act gang-like because somebody was throwing punches on their way out. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of times. Here's a.
Well, we also, sometimes people leave churches because they've done something real bad.
Well, they're embarrassed,
and they go over to somewhere else, and then that person goes over, and nobody wants to talk about the real bad thing that probably we shouldn't be involved in, and then it gets all messy. So there's a lot underlying that sometimes people just don't understand.
I've watched leadership find out some real issues some people had.
Yeah.
Right, through whatever situation it is. And I hate that it's like this. It's human nature, but shame is a powerful force.
It is.
So people feel ashamed of what transpired in their life, and they go somewhere else to get where people don't know about it. Those things happen too. So a lot of times.
But I do think like a true shepherd, I do think that when that happens, like a true shepherd would say, there's a heart behind it. It's like, they're leaving, they're coming here. They should care that that they're planted, that they're cared for, that they're, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's like not addressed, or not fostered at all.
Well, not fostered at all. And let's just be honest. A lot of churches will target a church that's been around a while to try to grow the new church.
People don't believe that. Like,
they don't believe
just
that, but
watch
it's very...
people, but I don't think normal people would ever think to do that.
Right,
but that is a move.
Divisive people do that.
Yes,
and,
it is
and
a move.
they'll come and try to recruit the leaders from another church to come over and be a part of this one because they got beef with the previous pastor or whatever. I've watched it happen a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they'll start targeting. They'll start working. They'll even develop small groups. They'll start inviting all your people to it. Mm-hmm. They'll start playing all that. And I've watched it happen.
It makes my heart sad.
It makes your heart sad, and I've watched deviant people do it. A lot of times because they've been corrected for some sort of, not that we run around correcting people, but at times you got staffers or you got whatever. It's your job as a shepherd to bring correction to this.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do this and be here and be in leadership, right?
I would love it if, like, when that happened, people could sit there and be loved back to health, and like sit in the pew
Stay
and like
get back together.
Stay in, and because that's what God intended.
But a lot of times they run off.
Yeah.
And then they'll change the story. Okay? They'll find something wrong with a leader, and they'll start trying to blast their character, and they'll say, you should come over here. It's great. They'll start all the posts. I'm so blessed at my new whatever, right?
Yeah.
At Holy Mackerel Tabernacle, right down the road. I'm so blessed over here. And you can't get up. You can't get up as a leader and say the reason this person is no longer on staff is because they're a pervert.
Yeah, that can't happen.
You can't do that because that's called slander.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that. And so you have to eat it quietly, and you fume, and you internalize, and you get through it.
But from a pastor's heart, like, that's heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking.
Because I'm watching people slip out under the guise of like, oh, it's going to be a better place that God's called us to. We're going into our promised land and leaving Egypt. It's like, come on.
It's like, come on.
Don't over-spiritualize it.
You're going across town. We're going to sing the same music. Preach out the same Bible,
doctrine,
have the same doctrine.
Half the same people are there.
It's another form of division.
Yeah.
And it's just humans are messed up.
Yeah.
So we're going to have this till Christ returns. Now, you think people are leaving a church, it's the end of the world. Actually, every church in America, it's reported pretty well, totally turns over every 7 years.
Every 7 years.
Every 7 years. And I think it's probably shorter than that now. Mm-hmm. They used to report every 7 years.
That was before COVID.
Before COVID. I think it's much faster now. That they're going to leave. And so People come, people go. We ought to love them and bless them, do the best we can. But if we're mature, let's try to do things right.
Yeah. And when you see people that have left your church, hug them, tell them you love them, and tell them you're still there and you'd love to see them back.
I act like they're still all a part of the church. I act like I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't want it to be awkward. I'm just like, it's so good to see you.
Sure.
Unless they've just been axe murderers or something.
Oh, yeah.
Tried to kill me. I'm like, it's so good to see you. Give them a hug. God bless you. Look at Bobby's growing. You know what I mean? I just try to.
And you know what's funny is like 5
to
to 10 years later, we get so many messages like, man, you were such a great pastor after I got out there and like experience, like, thank you so much for what you did for me or what you preached or how you took me on this missions trip or you did this or that. And so it's like, people eventually come around and everybody can walk in love. And the earlier we can walk in love in the process, the better our hearts stay.
And you don't always, let's say at 45, I know a lot more as a pastor than I did at 26 or 7.
Yeah.
So like, would I handle some of those issues different today than I did back then? Of course I would. Right? Because I'm like, my beard's gray now.
Yeah.
Right? I'm practically, my kids are starting in another year or so to go to college. I'm a different man now. And so I think I would have handled some of those things differently. And I think those people would have handled some of those things differently.
Of course.
I think everybody grows up. So that's life. But now I just want us to be as grace-filled. The time is short.
Yeah.
Right? The hour is evil.
Yeah.
And on the outside of the church,
the harvest is white.
The harvest is white. People need Jesus. And then the enemy has a stronger attack against us because we're getting closer to the end. And I think we need to learn to do life together.
I like it. Let's do life together.
Amen. Hey, we got some information for you about how you can support, what you want to be a part. Why don't you share, push this podcast out everywhere, and let's help somebody do church right and well. Right? From the pew to the pulpit, I want us to do it right. Thanks so much for being a part of the show today.
We love you guys. We hope you have a great day. Hope this helps.
Hey, my name's Brian Gibson. My wife Jessi and I are shooting this podcast together because we've been helping people in every area of their life for over 20-something years as pastors, and we want to do it on a daily basis and come to you live.
Well, I will tell you this. There is nothing you can buy on MyPillow that wouldn't be a great gift. If you're doing Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, you've got an aunt that has a graduation this right now. Any event is a great time for a MyPillow product.
And I can't think of another business guy who's put his life, his name, his business on the line more than Mike Lindell. He's got pillows, he's got sheets, he's got slippers, he's got America running through his blood. You ought to support Mike anyway. I'm all for him.
Make sure that you go to mypillow.com and use Gibson Podcast as your promo code to get your discount today and to support all that we're doing right here on our podcast. Well, not only do I go to the grocery store and buy food for my family at double the rate that I used to, but I see inflation all around me with friends and coworkers that are consistently, trying to find a way to save money, to find a new place to purchase this or to purchase that, because everywhere you go, things are higher. Gas, milk, eggs, every single thing that you touch, the price is so much different than it was just even a little over a year ago.
People ask me often about investments. Where would they put their money? Where would it be safe? I have bought some precious metals, some gold, some silver, mainly because I understand that these things are happening. And I know as long as I have that, right in the book of Genesis, it said that God put gold in the hills of Havilah, and the gold of those hills was good. So I know that God calls gold good. I want to encourage you to go to bh-pm.com, bh-pm.com, schedule a consultation today, and tell them that the Gibsons sent you.
Before we let you go today, I want to mention our new book, Love Handles. You are going to love this. Something to hold on to for your life. Listen, if you are in the best marriage ever, you need the book. If you are in a marriage that's totally jacked up, you need the book. If you have a niece, a nephew, a grandchild that's about to get married, they need the book. And if you've been married 1,000 years, you need the book. And this is why we made it super easy to read. I'm getting testimonials from all over the place, all over the country saying, we read it in one night. We read it while our kids were at soccer practice. We read it in one day. It changed our life. It's great. 10 chapters to change your marriage. And I'm just telling you, you need this in your life because everyone's marriage can use a little help. And some of our marriages can use a lot of help. So we want to make sure and get this in your hand. Lovehandlesbook.com, lovehandlesbook.com. You can order it there. We would love for you to read it. Brian and I wrote it together from a male and female perspective, and it's going to change your life.
Well, hey, I'm Pastor Brian Gibson. Thank you so much for listening to the Brian and Jessi Show. It's great to have you today.
I'm Jessi, and we're so glad that you joined us. Don't miss the next one. We'll see you then.